You may have seen others play fragpunk, whether it's sponsored streamers or those in the current closed beta test, but what is the game actually like, and is it worth getting excited about? I wanted to give you an insight on what it feels to play fragpunk, and whether or not it's something you're actually going to have fun playing. I wanted to break this video into four main categories: the gun mechanics, the heroes, the tactical shoot elements, and fragpunk's unique shard cards. There really is a lot going on in this game, and honestly, it was the first shooter game in a while that I felt like an absolute noob playing when I first picked it up, and I was absolutely bewildered about what was going on around me. And for somebody who's played hundreds of shooter games and put tens of thousands of hours into FPS, it was quite a nice feeling actually. But before we get into what makes Fragpunk different specifically, let's focus on the core shooting mechanics. I'm always of the belief that what makes a shooter game feel like coming back to, it's not all about the extra quirks and unique features. It's about how it actually feels to shoot guns. The devs clearly know how to make weapons feel special, impactful, and they give you that itch to just keep coming back for more. In fact, I was playing in the sort of PvP deathmatch practice mode just to get some extra footage for this video, and I found myself not really wanting to quit because the guns felt that good. From the animations to the sound design to how the weapons are difficult to master, it feels like these are true, powerful weapons that take a long time to get good with, and when you do, it feels really rewarding. The guns don't quite work like they do in Valorant or Counter-Strike, nor do they quite work like how they do in Call of Duty or Apex. It's really hard to put my finger on how to explain it, but like most elements of Fragpunk, these weapons do feel familiar at times, but also something that you've never quite put your hands on before. The sniper, for example, almost feels like a classic Modern Warfare 2 sniper with its quick scope time and powerful one-shot hits. Or you can take an AK and hold angles, much like you would in Valorant or CSGO. Or pair the shotgun with a character that has Apex-like sliding as his passive and push around like you're the fastest movement player in the game. There's so much variety, and the guns really do feel like they've got something worth trying, which I feel is kind of missing from most guns in Counter-Strike and Valorant. I feel like you always end up taking like the AK or the Vandal in those games, and then when it comes to this game, Fragpunk, you kind of have fun with all of them. They all feel like they have their potential and can actually keep up, and later on I'll explain why you kind of have to use all the weapons. Like most hero shooters, you get a range of heroes in Fragpunk. They're called Lancers, and they all have 3 active abilities, and some get a passive ability. You've got the typical things like smoke abilities, zone control, damage-based abilities, and traps. I did feel like some abilities felt a little bit lackluster. Like Axon gets a free shotgun, bouncing sticky nades, a flashbang protection ability, and he can just slide around the map like crazy. And then you have Hollowpoint that has a sniper that kind of feels weaker than the main sniper you can get for free anyway. A recon smoke grenade thing and another recon nade. I actually did really like the character design themselves, but some of the abilities did feel like they needed a bit of balancing. But you know, it's early days I suppose, and I was obviously quite new to the game, so it's harder to make a decent observation of how the meta will play out, but I'm certainly wondering how they're going to balance things. I'd be curious to see what it would feel like in the highest level of play. I want to talk about the main game objective now before jumping into the shard cards, which is really unique to Fragpunk. So it is a 5v5 tactical shooter. You have attacking and defending rounds, and it's first to 4 wins, so it's a lot quicker than other tactical shooters. And if you get a tiebreaker, you go into this really cool 1v1 scenario. Every player takes their turn to 1v1. If they win their 1v1, they stay on to fight the next player in the list, and every player gets 1 life. And the losing team is whichever team has all their players die first. It feels fast-paced and a lot more forgiving than the overtime system in Counter-Strike and Valorant. I think it's this 1v1 thing that really helped me put together in words how I felt about the game. It's like a fine middle line for your normal tactical shooter and your casual arena shooter. Yeah, it can get sweaty and give you that same competitive experience that Valorant and Counter-Strike can, but you have more freedom of movement. You can jump, run, mantle, and use weapons a little bit more similarly to you could in Call of Duty. But then the guns still require a lot more skill to master, and there's a very low time to kill. So you have what feels like a fresh competitive game, but actually it's still fun to play, and you're never stuck in a game for too long. It really doesn't take as long, and you're out back into the menu fairly quickly. You don't feel the stress as much. There is tension, but not stress and frustration. I don't know, maybe after time that will change, but coming into it new, certainly feels like you don't get bored in around because the game ends pretty quickly. And another thing to keep it interesting are the shard cards. And this is the part when you start to feel like everything just doesn't make sense. You'll be scratching your head in confusion when you first start the game, because at the start of each round, on top of choosing a lancer and a weapon, your team gets to collectively spend points on any of the randomly drawn shard cards that appear. These give massive modifiers to your game. For example, one high value card makes your team respawn as zombies after you die, whereas another can make you float in the air when you aim down sights after jumping. These cards keep things fresh, exciting, and I can imagine add for some pretty interesting strategies as well. Unlike other tactical shooters, there's no economy besides the points used for the cards, and basically you get to use every weapon freely. Like at the start of the game, you could go with a sniper in round 1, but if you die with that weapon, you cannot use it again unless you have a special card to do so. So you can pick and choose when you want to run specific weapons, but if you die with that weapon, you're going to have to choose something else. And that can really be interesting, considering it's a 4-round match, essentially. Like, once one team gets 4 rounds, the game is over. It's harder to do an economy system. You can't build up money and deny your enemies money by killing them, because there aren't enough rounds to do so. So giving this option to just choose a weapon as soon as you go is pretty interesting. Another thing is, after each round, you can actually choose a different character. So you're not locked into playing the same Lancer, which means, let's say, I don't know, sometime down the line, there's a really cheesy strategy that involves specific Lancers, and you don't have to worry about accidentally being locked into the wrong character, because next round you can change it up on the fly. There does seem to be a lot more of a focus of trying to take that competitive experience from Counter-Strike and Valorant and making it more fun and appealing, and it certainly does that. Fragpunk is a pleasure to play. It's a pleasure to the eyes. The art style is really quite something special, and it really stands out on its own. I think, in summary, the thing I'd like to explain on how Fragpunk is that, yes, there have been many other games that have attempted to just throw together all the best shooter games into one package, but there's yet to be one that actually comes out of it with a coherent experience that feels like its own thing, and that to me is Fragpunk. Right now it is in closed beta, but I assume it's probably going to be out pretty soon. I hope it does well, but I do think with these kind of arena-style shooter games, for whatever reason, they don't necessarily always have a great shelf life. It may take the same path as, say, the Finals or X-Defiant, where it has a big, explosive launch and then pretty quickly dies off. But I think there'll be enough players around to keep this thing going for a long time. There'll definitely be a core dedicated fan base for this game. So whilst this game may not end up being the next big shooter, a lot of fun, and probably will be around for quite some time. Let me know what you think about this game, and I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio!